Jeff. There we go. Chicago, Saturday Park. We've been down to Memorial Day, and coming up to Memorial Day, you get in the park.
That was a good concert.
It was a good concert. A lot of oldies in that.
All right, Tom, we've got some studio guests in here today.
We sure do.
Talk to us about it.
Well, we've got Tanova in here today, and I'm going to let them introduce themselves and who's in here in the studio. So,
Give us what your title is.
The titles on that.
Well, good morning. I'm Coleman Foss. I am the Chief Executive Officer at Tanova. Been there almost 11 years.
Great. And Dr. Jaggers?
I'm John Jaggers, locally grown.
Locally grown.
I am not an employee at the hospital. I'm an independent physician with an independent practice, and I have been here. This is my 30th year.
Yes. All right. Well, tell us a little bit about the adventure. Y'all wanted to jump out and do a freestanding, I guess,
Right.
that part.
So a little bit of background. Obviously, Cleveland and Bradley County are growing. Our emergency room has grown significantly over the years in terms of the number of visits that we have. And about 3 years ago, we decided, hey, we probably need to start looking at some other opportunities to have sort of access points outside the hospital. So we began to look at where we were going to put a freestanding ED, maybe some urgent care centers, maybe some rural health clinics, all to kind of bring the health care further out to the population of Bradley and Polk counties, which those are probably our two biggest counties. We also have a lot of folks that come from McMinn and Meigs as well. But so we began that process and identified a couple of different sites. One being North Cleveland, up Paul Huff Stewart Road area, and the other one down in South Cleveland, and then we looked at Charleston and Benton and places like that as well. And we were going through that process. It's a pretty deliberate process, and then Erlanger kind of came along and said, hey, we want to do the same thing. And we thought, well, if we're going to do it, we need to do it at the same time, because I think they explained a little bit yesterday on the radio. There's quite a process in the state of Tennessee with certificates of needs. It's a very regulated, highly regulated industry, and it's because of the rationing of health care. There's limited resources. I think most states in the country have some sort of way of doing that. So we filed our certificate of need, and so actually I guess you can look at it as we're kind of going head-to-head with Erlanger in terms of other certificate of need process. But our vision is to put the freestanding 24-hour emergency room up at on Stewart Road. We've picked out a lot down up there, close to Jordan's Barbecue, but right before you go up the hill there. And then we continue to look at some other sites across the county where we might wind up putting an urgent care center, probably not 24/7, but also maybe even looking at some rural health clinics, and again, Charleston and South Cleveland and some other places like that make sense to us.
Okay, and the certificate of need process, are you going to have your hearing the same day that Erlanger has their hearing as well?
Right. Yeah. So the way that works is it's basically an administrative law hearing, and what happens is there's a panel that hears all the data on both sides, but the way they do it is Erlanger will probably do their presentation first, and then the state will decide at that point, yes or no, they get it, and then we'll present ours, and they'll decide yes or no. So, I mean, you potentially could have, I guess, 4 to 5 different outcomes. You could have nobody gets one, we each get one, neither of us get one, or, one or the other gets it. So it's really, and a lot of it is I would say probably 70% of it is based on the metrics of the state health plan and the orderly development of health care, and all the demographics and metrics that go along with that. And then there's some public opinion that weighs in on it. But I think it really comes down to kind of how the state health plan relegates health care in a community.
Do you have any inkling of how that's going to come out? Do you think they're going to do both, or are they going to limit it to one?
The state's very reticent to give freestanding ERs to begin with.
Why is that?
I think they feel like, to be candid, I think they generally see it as a way for other hospitals to kind of do a money grab in other hospitals' markets, and so I think there's some reticence to do that. When it does make sense, as in our case, where you've got a growth. I mean, clearly we know Cleveland and Bradley County are growing significantly, and when you've got an ER, I mean, we'll probably do 50,000 ER visits, nowhere near what Erlanger does, but they get all the trauma. They're a trauma center and level 1 trauma center. But because we're overcrowding and so many people today really don't have primary care physicians, they use the emergency room as their primary care. So you get a lot of people who wind up using not only our ER, but any emergency room as their primary care clinic. So in a growing area, that's usually when they will award them, is because it just makes sense to try and dilute a little bit of the bottlenecking that goes on in emergency rooms.
Okay, so the urgent care units in Cleveland, they have to go through a CON process too?
That's the interesting thing. A freestanding ER is a very unique animal. It has to be open 24/7. It has to have the backup of of a hospital. It's interesting because Erlanger's saying that they're going to have a level 4 trauma designation. Erlanger has a level 1 trauma designation in Chattanooga, and there's about 6, I think, hospitals across the state of Tennessee that have a level 1 trauma designation. But there's about 100 hospitals across the state of Tennessee. Very few hospitals have any sort of trauma designation. We do trauma every single day. We send the major trauma to Erlanger. We've worked with Erlanger for years and have had a great relationship with them on that. What they're proposing, though, is really just an urgent care center. It's just that it's open 24/7, and because a hospital owns it, they can designate it as an emergency room. But the problem is, from our standpoint, we've got Dr. Jaggers and all of our physicians in Bradley County are on staff at our hospital. So if we have a patient that shows up at our freestanding ER, then our doctors who are on call for our emergency room anyway, and it's all subspecialties, every subspecialty is on call, they would be available to take those patients over at the main campus, and our ER doctors would treat them there, but they could bring them over there if they needed a surgical procedure or some sort of outpatient procedure, follow-up, what have you. Our doctors on staff could do that. None of the doctors in Bradley County would be on staff at that freestanding ED. So any patient that requires anything really above just a minor level 4 basically means stabilize and transfer. So, and that's what they're seeking. So all of those patients would be shipped down the road to Chattanooga. They wouldn't be able to keep them here because they don't have surgical backup. They're trying to propose cath labs, which to my knowledge, no freestanding ED anywhere in the state of Tennessee has a cath lab associated with it. So that's kind of an interesting caveat. But our physicians are not on staff, nor would they be compelled to have to go cover another ER that they don't have staff privileges at. So it's pretty much everything's going to be shipped down to Chattanooga from there because they're not going to have great capabilities to take care of patients there.
Okay, well, I don't. I want you guys to have all the time that you need to give us the benefits of your proposal. But when you say that, Erlanger was sitting here yesterday saying, "Hey, we work well with Tenova. If it's something that's not needing trauma care, if it's something that doesn't need level 1 trauma care, we'll feed it to Tenova instead of taking it to Chattanooga."
That's interesting because in the certificate of need process, which is very exacting, very methodical in terms of what you put in there, you have to spell out and have transfer agreements already drafted when you submit the application basically to the state and to the panel. There was no discussion. In fact, the discussion with us was kind of unilateral of we're going to take everything down there. And then our physicians kind of got frustrated and said, "Hey, that's not right. We don't want to lose the patients." There was no mention at all in their certificate of need of how they were planning on maintaining the patients in Bradley County, which has to be spelled out. So, we all know negotiations, unilateral negotiations usually are not very, very copacetic. So,
one of the things we want to make sure that the citizens of Bradley County are serviced and take care of quality care. That's our main one.
Absolutely.
And anybody, I would think, I know my household, anybody here wants to make sure that we have those services available.
Sure. And I would completely agree with you. I mean, like I said, we've had a great relationship with Erlanger. Literally a week before they filed their certificate of need, we were having dinner with their cardiology group and our cardiologists, and we were pretty surprised that they wound up doing it on the heels of some of the conversations they had with our local medical staff, because the medical staff feels like, we have over the last 7 years, we've recruited about 27 different positions mainly in subspecialties. We recruited a partner in pulmonology. We've brought in urologists. We've brought in a lot of cardiologists, spine surgeons. I mean, we've really ramped up, not to mention expanding our primary care base. I've lived here 11 years. I'm not a native, but my mother-in-law lives here now, and, I want the same thing. In medicine, oftentimes is of the essence in terms of treatment, whether it's a heart attack or stroke. Bradley County, being over 100,000 people, was actually if not the largest, but one of the largest counties in the state of Tennessee, population-wise, that didn't have STEMI coverage. And what STEMI is basically the heart attack. It's an ST elevated MI. And there's a lot of reasons why, but we decided, hey, we've got to do some things in Bradley County to bring that level of care up. So that's when we brought in the interventional cardiologist. We now have 3 very well trained interventional cardiologists. We've been doing stints at our facility now for 5 years. We are getting ready to start the the STEMI protocols in the ER this summer, which is huge because, again, the quicker we can get that heart open, and Dr. Jagger certainly can explain this much better than I, but the better we can get the blood perfusing to the heart again, the more tissue we can save. But we've always worked with Erlanger Memorial in the past on cardiac. We work with Erlanger almost exclusively on strokes, again, to get the tissue saved in the brain if somebody's having a stroke. So we've had really strong, good protocols over the years. And we feel like we have raised the bar. I mean, we just got an increase in our star rating, which is kind of like the diamond ratings of hotels, it's star ratings in the hospital. We just got an increase in that. We continue to see our ER wait times go down, the number of patients who leave without any sort of treatment go way down. And we've really made a lot of strides. And I would say this even of Dr. Jagger's, we are blessed with a tremendous medical staff in this community. We've got some local guys who came back here who probably could have gone anywhere in the country or the world if they wanted to. We've brought in some very well-trained doctors from outside, and our thought process is let's keep raising that bar. Let's keep working with the other hospitals in Chattanooga, in Knoxville, in Atlanta, wherever we need to get our patients. We can probably take care of 80% of what we need to right here, but we recognize there's limits to what a community hospital can do, and so hospitals don't make referrals, doctors do. So the doctor's going to send somebody where they feel like they're going to get the best treatment to treat whatever it is, be it oncological, heart, stroke, whatever the issue is.
You based on a couple things. How many employees do y'all have? How many people y'all employ?
So just at the hospital, we employ about 1,100. With all of our clinics, and we've got several clinics now, employed physicians, and in our occupational health, we've got clinics in a number of different plants. We're about 1,400 total employees altogether.
How many new jobs, if the certificate of need is granted, how many new jobs would you be bringing in?
Well, so the freestanding ER would probably about 20 to 25 new jobs, but that's 20 to 25 new jobs.
Absolutely, and and they're good paying jobs, healthcare jobs. So that's great. What about the local doctors? I heard that as being a definite advantage to the CON that you put in. What other advantages to Nova's CON do you see?
Well, I think obviously the proximity of a freestanding ER to our hospital. Again, if somebody shows up in an ER, if you hang your shingle out as an ER, you got to be able to take all comers. Even if we were to get a freestanding ER, there would still be those patients that we would send to Erlanger from a freestanding ER situation, but probably the vast majority of them we could bring right over to the main facility. And if it was a pulmonology case, if it was a GI case, if it was a cardiac or orthopedics, we would take care of the vast majority of that here. And again, right, wrong, or indifferent, that road from here to Chattanooga is not getting any longer, but sure getting a whole lot more congested. And again,
it is.
Time is of the essence. I think the other piece is, I think if we get another ED, it would dilute the main ER in terms of some of the patients. So, everybody assumably would be seen quicker. And of course, as Cleveland continues to grow, we've got to find new avenues to deliver that care. But I think it would help the existing ER, which is why Erlangers want to do it. They're trying to get their ER a little bit diluted as well, too, because, like I said, a lot of people use emergency rooms as their primary care. So it would help us. It would be quick access to our local physicians. It would be able to maintain our patients here in Bradley County rather than folks having to travel back and forth. And, I just think about my mother-in-law. She's in her mid-70s, post-polio. If she had to drive back and forth to Chattanooga, or if we were having to drive her back and forth, or if it was wintertime or what have you, that becomes problematic. And if your caregiver has to be driving back and forth, it's difficult. So I think, hence the reason why there's a Health Facilities Commission. The goal is to try and keep limited resources in terms of providers equally distributed as much as possible amongst the population. They intentionally don't want all the doctors and hospitals in Nashville or Chattanooga. They want to get it out as much as possible, again, because time is of the essence.
We've got a caller. You're live on the Morning Jive with Jeff and Tom. Good morning.
Yes, I have a comment and a question for those gentlemen in there with you. If we did have another emergency room, wouldn't that help take some of the over people coming to your emergency room. Like it's been real. The wait time has been kind of bad.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the first part of your question.
He asked if another emergency room would help the wait time for patients to see.
Sure, yeah, absolutely. If we were to get another emergency room, since we're both applying for one, either way, a new freestanding ED would help wait times.
Okay, great. Dr. Jaggers, from a doctor's perspective, what do you have anything to tell the listeners what you would have to them to know from a doctor's perspective of this?
Absolutely.
Okay.
You know, a little background. Like I said, I was born here. I was actually born in this hospital, and it was Bradley. Grew up here. In summers in college, I actually worked at the hospital cleaning up the operating rooms after surgeries and transporting patients. And after my training, I came back, and I've been here for 30 years. And when I came back, Bradley was still a tiny community hospital. And I was the third subspecialist. The other two had been here about a year. And in the last 30 years, the medical community here has absolutely blossomed. We've got a huge medical staff. We've got innumerable subspecialties and subspecialists. And it's continued to grow. Fortunately, we've been supported by the hospital with new programs and new equipment. And Cleveland is not a bedroom community of Chattanooga. We are our own place.
Right.
We are the city with a spirit. And
I like that, Dr. Jagger, because Mayor Rowland says it all the time. I'm on the city council, and if you don't know, Jeff, he was a sitting senator, state senator, so, and that's used all the time as the city with spirit.
Mm-hmm. And we've grown, and we're independent, and we're very proud of it. And from a physician's perspective, over 30 years, I've had a great relationship with Erlanger. I have friends. I have people on staff there. There's never been a problem. They provide excellent service to the things that we don't provide and don't want to provide here in Bradley County. There's never been a problem. Mm-hmm. But from a physician standpoint, especially from a subspecialty standpoint, physicians are going to not be able to stay in Cleveland. They're going to have to leave. It's going to be impossible to recruit new subspecialists. And this would put Bradley County back 30 years. We provide what we provide. We do a very good job. The things that we don't provide, cardiac surgery, neurosurgery, burns, strokes, Erlanger does a great job. And we want to continue to use them just like we have. But we don't need a duplication of services. I mean, they're not proposing to provide one single thing that we don't provide here now, nor can we provide. And what has not been mentioned is that it's not going to just be a freestanding emergency department. They're going to be physicians' offices. They're going to be regular physicians and subspecialty offices that are going to take patients and they're going to send them directly down the road. And they're not going to send them here to us. We're going to lose them. And I cannot see that helps our community whatsoever.
All right. Well, Jeff, let's go to the music. We'll come back. We'll get everything straightened up. It's 10 minutes before the hour, 15 minutes. Let's do a little song here. We'll come back and get our heads wrapped around. I got some other questions I want to ask you guys, too, about the future of Tenova, which I will plan on in the future. So,
And if you want to join the conversation, you can do so, 614-5553, 614-5553.
all right. I got the music in me. Here we go this morning. It's live right here. Morning Jive.
I don't know if I want to see you with the music in your now.
No foolish dream to make me cry. I'm never frightened or worried. I know I always get by. I heat up, cool down. When something gets in my way, I go round it. Don't let life get me down. Gonna take it the way that I found it.
music in me. All right, we got the music in us in the studio this morning. Jeff, how about that?
Tom's a big man. I don't know if you want to see the music getting in Tom or not.
Yeah, there you go. I got the music in me.
Oh, my goodness. We got a call.
Got a caller calling in.
All right. Caller, you're live on the Morning Jive with Jeff and Tom. Good morning.
Well, good morning. I'm glad to see both of those gentlemen was there, and I know the one to your right, Jeff.
Dr. Jaggers?
Dr. Jaggers?
Yeah, Dr. Jaggers, he's afraid
This
he's
is-
going to mess his hair up there.
Well, this is Edward.
This is Edward.
Edward Webb, Dr. Jaggers.
Good morning, sir.
One of the best physicians I've ever been to.
Well, thank you very much.
Talk to us and tell us how things are. And I recommend him. I mean, I've been to many physicians in my life, but he'll get down and talk to you and take care of you, and he's concerned about his patients. He may have more than he can do already, but if you need a pulmonologist, go to see Dr. Jaggers. He is the best.
Now, how much does he pay you to say that now?
Well, I'm gonna echo that.
That's a plug.
Edward. I'm gonna echo that because
How about that? That's a plug.
yeah.
That's a plug.
My family has used Dr. Jaggers in the past too, and he's an excellent physician. That's right.
Thank you.
And so you did it. You're right there, Edward.
I haven't used him yet. I hope I don't have to use him in the future, so I don't want to stay away from that.
Well, you're not supposed to ask a woman how old she is, but after he said he was born at Bradley Memorial Hospital, it makes me wonder what his age is and if my department bought the things that they used on him when he was a baby.
So
That would be true. I am 29 with 33 years of experience.
Well, Edward, I'm 55, and I was born at Bradley Memorial Hospital, so I bet you had a part in purchasing the things that brought me into the world.
Well, I started there in 1957, so, my department bought supplies until 2000, until I retired. So,
1962, Bradley Memorial.
a lot of supplies.
I think they were short that year. They didn't get all the supplies, Jeff.
You think
They just pulled you out. You ain't been saying yet. They
And
dropped you a
dropped
couple
me
times.
and
They
dropped me.
dropped you a couple times and
That's
said, "Let's see
all
if he
right.
bounces."
I started when everything was reusable, a catheter bag with a gallon jug under the bed.
Oh my!
Yeah, well, you could have gone all day.
Yeah,
with
let's
that.
not go there.
and saved that till, man, everything was disposable. What I'm concerned about for all hospitals and grocery stores, if they can't get the trucks in, we're not going to have food. And then the surgeons can only do so many surgeries because they don't have the disposable supplies that they're going to have to use. And that's a situation, and I hope we never face that.
Well, thank you for that. Edward, do you have a question for these gentlemen?
Oh, well, I have a comment. Yeah, sure I do.
All right.
Okay.
In the certificate of needs, Nova had that they're going to have 36 full-time equivalents out there.
Okay. I honestly couldn't remember how many we had put in there.
No, that's all right. I was reading on it last night between 12 and 1. Check. It's you can look it up online.
Right.
Of course, Erlanger thought I had a bunch of pile of papers when I was talking. Pile of papers. No, I've got it online.
Saving trees.
Yeah.
Even trees, yeah.
Saving trees by looking at it online.
Well, it's also interesting to me that what Nova's going to give for that land out there, $905,000, and the county's got it appraised for $286,500. My goodness, that's pretty good.
Well, I think some people sometimes Everett sees an opportunity and they want to make the best of it, and I don't really, if it's my property, I guess a lot of people that have property out there, if they don't own it, it's not worth anything. As soon as they own it, it's worth everything. So it's just the market.
What the market will bear.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Well, I was going to ask, if they had room to expand there, but now I understand after listening to the administrator that they would plan on having other satellite areas. And that's what Bradley Memorial tried to do years ago when this when they had health works out there out on Stewart Road.
Right, correct.
Years and years ago, that was the intent there. But it was home to me at Bradley Memorial after working there 43 years, and I'm so glad to get to hear these gentlemen. And the administrator there has made a great presentation. I wonder. I saw I believe it was Elizabeth Foss on a his name on there. What is that for?
I'm sorry, Elizabeth Foss?
Yeah, on the certificate of need.
The Foss family, no relation to me, may have some ownership in that land going way back. 'Cause, I think the Fosses were part of the Hardwick family, so they may have had some ownership in that land that we are seeking to buy.
Coleman Foss, he said he came here 11 years ago. So
Yeah, when I first moved to town, somebody asked me if I was a member of the Foss family. I didn't know there was other. I said, well, yeah, absolutely.
That's how I've become a Foss.
Well, I'm double brothers with those gentlemen down there because I told them the other day that, hey, brothers, and I said, well, if I missed it in Christ, I hit it in Adam.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah, well, glad to see you all. And
All right. Thank you for calling, Edward.
remember, go see Dr. Jaggers. He also goes to the Masters every year. He can tell you about that.
Oh my goodness.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And he had a great father, and he's a Bradley County man.
Absolutely. All right.
Yes, sir.
Intelligent, smart, communicative, get down on your level and talk to you. And I hope to see him again one of these days.
Thank you, Edward.
Thank you,
Appreciate
Edward.
your call.
Appreciate the call.
All right. Well, that has to make you feel good, Doc. That's all right. I hope people talk about me that good when I'm gone, much less when I'm alive. That's awesome.
Well, let me ask you about your future plans for Tenova. What do y'all see bright in your future? I mean, let's not talk about this. Let's talk about what the hospital, or what other services or things that you're going to do, or growth that we'll see in a community that you can share with us.
Yeah,
and our
so
listeners.
great question. Healthcare is ever changing. I mean, in the 11 years I've been here, I've seen our hospital grow significantly and change, and I think the next 5 to 10 years will have just equal amount of change. I'm blessed. We're blessed to be a benefactor of the growth. I mean, as Cleveland and Bradley County grows, the hospital necessarily has to grow, and services have to expand. And as we grow and expand, that becomes more attractive. I mean, the chamber will tell you when people come to town, they want to know about the schools and they want to know about the healthcare accessibility.
Right.
So,
Absolutely.
It's a very symbiotic relationship. But there's no question that the cardiac program, and as we move forward, I mean, 5 years ago we were just doing diagnostic catheterizations in the cardiac cath lab. Now we're doing stent placements. We're doing vascular cases in there. So we have really upped the game tremendously on the cardiac standpoint. That I think will be a tipping point for our hospital and community hospital level to get us moving even forward in a stronger direction. We just brought in 2 robots for surgery. The robots themselves don't do the surgery. The doctors are manipulating.
Wait a minute now, Doctor. You're going to robots. We're taking away your job. A robot's going to do it now, huh?
Oh, I can run down to the master.
Program it that night before and just run down.
We got robots running around. We're going to do surgery on you.
No.
It's pretty phenomenal to watch. We have a Da Vinci robot that actually does 3 different types of surgery. It does GYN cases, urology cases, and general surgery cases. And the doctors, it's a very fascinating thing to watch. The robot is actually docked up to the table, and then the doctor is manipulating the controls almost like a video game.
Precision. There's very
unbelievable.
precise.
It's extremely, and the incisions are so much smaller. The manipulations within your body are so much smaller, and the recovery process is cut in half. It's phenomenal. And then we just got a Mako robot, which is for orthopedics, and we're actually the only hospital in Southeast Tennessee that has it, and will be the only hospital for a year that has it. But the fact is, when you do knee replacement or hip replacement, the problem when you have sort of orthopedic is not the bone; it's when they lay the muscle back. That's what causes the problems in recovery, or causes the delays in recovery. Because think about it, just after working out, how sore your muscles are. Well, if they're kind of laid back, that's even more problematic. So this robot actually doesn't even lay the muscles back. They can go in and do knee replacements and hip replacements with this robotic arm, and it is incredible to watch, and we just got that in within the past 60 days. And
Now, in doing that, what kind of investment does the hospital have to make? These things are not cheap, I'm
No,
sure.
no,
So what type of investment are we talking about?
both of the
basically?
robots cost us about $2 million a piece.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, so they're pretty expensive.
Well, as a healthcare consumer and not being in the healthcare community, it would seem to the normal consumer that competition is a good thing, and so to have someone else in the community doing healthcare would be a good thing. But you kind of explained to us during the song there that that can be detrimental. Go ahead and tell the listeners.
Yeah. So my point is this. I mean, and like I said, I'm as conservative as anybody when it comes to economics. But medical economics and the healthcare model is different than your standard free market enterprise, because the situation is this: we're limited on the number of physicians and providers that we have, and so if Erlanger builds an ER in Bradley County, even though they're saying they're going to try and send them local, again, our doctors don't have privileges at Erlanger, so they've got to find somebody. They're required to find somebody to do follow-up on those cases. And, of course, if it requires inpatient, they're going to, it has to be done right then and there. So if our doctors don't have privileges, you're going to estimate, we'll say conservatively, 15 to 20% of the patients would be shipped down to Chattanooga for their physicians. I mean, they're trying to keep their physicians fed and lively as well, too. But if we're losing 15 to 20%, well, if you've got, we'll take Dr. Jagger's practice as an example. If you've got 4 doctors and suddenly you cut out 20%, well, somebody's not going to be getting enough skills or money to stay viable, and so somebody's going to leave. So right now the docs are taking 1 in 4 call, and it's taken a while to get them to that 1 in 4 call, just because we're working to find the right recruit, the right person to bring into the community, somebody that we felt was going to be able to stand toe-to-toe with anything that was going on elsewhere. And we've got that. We've got a very, very strong group. But if we lose 20% of the business, then somebody's going to leave. Well, suddenly it's not just a matter of, okay, well, then you go down to 3 pulmonologists and they work with that population. If you go down to 3 pulmonologists, one of them's going to say, look, I'm not going to do 1 in 3 anymore. I've invested all these years. I'm tired. I don't want to do this anymore. So suddenly another one leaves, and then you're down to 1 to 2. Well, then if you've got 2 pulmonologists, you can't go out and recruit somebody easily because you suddenly have lost a fair amount of your market share. And the other 2 are going to say, we can't do this, either financially or clinically or just physically. We're worn out. And then before you know it, Bradley County's lost pulmonology. And it's not just pulmonology. It's general surgery. It's orthopedics. It's urology. It's cardiology, which we've worked very, very hard to get that up and running to the point where, again, if we want it to be a situation where somebody has a heart attack, we can take care of it. We can get that heart. We can get the stent in. We're not doing open heart. We absolutely are going to ship those patients down the road to Chattanooga, be it Erlanger Memorial or somewhere else. Same thing's true in a stroke. But our goal is to have the specialist to take care of what a community hospital needs. And we have grown that spectrum tremendously. We don't want to see that get eroded away. And we feel like if Erlanger's taking 20 to 25% of that business, we'll see doctors leave, and then that'll become problematic.
And I'd like to say one thing. This is not just about physicians. We employ a lot of people. And, you work with people in your office, they become your family, and their families become your family. And when one physician leaves, the support staff has to be cut. And so we end up having to let go several people and supporters and all their families, and those are people that live in Bradley County.
Right. And I think it's, he didn't use the quote this way, but last week I heard Governor Haslam make a comment that is true, I think, in this situation. He said, when you love a community so much that becomes more important than your own individual agenda, then you're going to serve well. And I think the doctors of this community love this community. They obviously take care of the patients. They've served it very, very well. They love it more than any agenda that any hospital in Chattanooga is going to have. And they also, for the employees that we have, you asked how many we have about 1,200. When we did a celebration of our 65th anniversary, Alan Jones was the first baby born. We did a big celebration. We started asking how many of our employees were born at that hospital. We were overwhelmed with the number of employees who worked there, who were born at that hospital and love this community. And we just don't want to see that erode.
And we're overtime on the Morning Jive with Jeff and Tom, but we have a caller calling in. You're live on the Morning Jive. Good morning, caller. You're live.
We're overtime on the Morning Jive with Jeff and Tom, but we have a caller calling in. You're live on the Morning Jive.
I guess.
The old man again.
I hear a little delay. You turn that radio down in the background there.
We're overtime, Edward. So what's going on, sir?
Well, how much is that going to cost me? A minute or an hour?
Time and a half.
Well, when we have the celebration, it's going to cost you half of a piece of a cake, but I'm going to eat of yours. How about that? No.
Get some of that fattening cake. I hope Dr. Jaggers comes down there for that.
Yeah. Well, he's going to pass out cards for all the pulmonaries so we can get all that stuff cleaned out.
Tell him he needs to reschedule those patients and come down and enjoy that celebration.
Well,
We are. We're having our 15th anniversary as Whoop Radio on the 30th of
30th
May, Wednesday, all day long.
All day long.
All day long. Come to the studio to celebrate with
We'll have bumper stickers, T-shirts, and cake, and everything to give out. So Jeff and myself will be in the studio from 11 to 1 at that time, and I'm sure the other DJs, too, will be in here also.
You got one of those. You got my name on one of those cups, don't you?
I do, and they're going to get, Dr. Jagger's going to get one before you. How about that?
All right, Edward.
I read in Erlanger's certificate of need where they claim that they're 10 to 15%. Their prices are 10 to 15% lower. Do you gentlemen think that's accurate?
Well, here's the thing with healthcare pricing. It's kind of, I wish it wasn't the way it is. But first of all, probably 90% of the people that walk into the hospital already have a pre-negotiated rate through their insurance company, be it Medicare, be it Cigna, Aetna, United, TennCare, what have you. So really, pricing doesn't, and I know it sounds odd, but pricing really doesn't matter that much except on copays and deductibles. And we actually participate in a program called MD Save, which is basically the same thing as Priceline for hotels. We can give people very, very cheap, I won't say cheap, but inexpensive alternatives in healthcare. And so, yes, if you look at their charges versus our charges, yeah, they probably are less expensive. But the fact of the matter is what you pay out of pocket is the same at every hospital.
And it's not what you charge, it's what you get.
That's
right?
exactly right. We don't get anywhere near what we charge, I assure you.
All right, thank you, caller. All right, we need to wrap this up, Tom. We're live on the Morning Jive with Jeff and Tom. We've had Coleman Foss in,
The CEO.
yes, sir, of Tenova Healthcare, and Dr. John Jaggers.
Here in the studios live. We appreciate you guys coming in and sharing your story, and
Thanks for having us. Thanks for
we
letting
look
us
forward to
talk.
see how this thing outcomes. You know, I know there's still some talk and some things are going out, so we, when it's all said and done, we'd like to have you guys back and talk about it.
This has been very, very informative, and we really appreciate your
thank
time
you for
this
having
morning.
us.
Thank you so much. All right, Tom. Well, we're going to be out of here today, and backfires tomorrow morning at 7:30 to 8:30.
Yep.
And then the Memorial Day is going to kick in for us, and we'll meet you guys back here on Tuesday, next Tuesday, a week from today.
That's it. And this show here will be aired with Erlanger 2 on Friday. So you'll hear that back to back, both the shows again, back to back. We're going to put it on the air so during our slot time so you can hear both of them again.
All right. There you go.
All right.
Thank you for joining us, and we hope you'll come back next Tuesday, and also to join us for our birthday celebration, 15 years of Whoop Radio right here on the 30th of May in studio all day long. All day long. Somebody will be here all day long to celebrate with you, so drop by and see us, okay?
That's it. Let's
All
take
right.
it out little boogie shoes here with the KC and Sunshine Band. We can go back to this time, can't we?
We can. Unfortunately, yes.
It's all skate.
Remember, all skate. All skate. This is all skate.